And we are live. What's up, everybody? This is Nick from P2W Fantasy here with my co-host for Skrip 2 Ships, Stephie Smalls. Stephie, I feel like it's been so long just because we had a Tuesday show instead of a Thursday show, and I feel like there's been 1,000 things that have happened in between the last two shows. I can go on a list here. We had Stephie had the return to the normal account from the burner account, had that going on. I was out on vacation getting burned. Big news, you surprisingly joined a home league that I'm in. Like all these crazy things have happened within a week. So welcome to the show as always, Stephie. What's up?
I'm so excited. I'm like petting my dog here. She obviously wants to participate in the conversation today. I don't know what is going on, but yeah, so many things happened. Craziness. It was last show trying not to like scream like, I'm going to go to the live draft and I'm in your league. So it's nice that you finally know. Did you have a good vacation too?
Yeah. So it was funny when that all happened. I was just, I get the sleeper notifications for that league just because it's usually, I don't know, guys locally BSing about stuff. And then I saw, special guests coming in. And I had zero idea it was going to be you, of course, because you're not from the area. And I thought it was just badass. So I'm actually looking forward to that draft so much. It's going to be awesome. Probably going to get lit at it and draft and snipe a bunch of people. So I'm happy to be in that league and get to meet up and hang out in person.
No, it'll be awesome. We'll have to like postpone the show that week so we don't know who each other's guys are and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Or maybe we'll throw each other off the next like few weeks here. But how's the so you still juggling those two accounts? Is the burner still alive, or are you just moving on to the normal Twitter account here?
I'm keeping the burner because I have a feeling for those of you that have followed me longer, I probably will need it during football season at some point, and just to be safe. But I've been popping on there and just tweeting a little just because I think it's funny. I'm like telling myself to shut up. I don't know who I think I am, but to me it's funny and I laugh.
Yeah, I thought it was funny seeing like now there's two of us or something along those lines. But my original Twitter is like my burner now, just in case, because you never know, I guess. But we got a good show ahead of us tonight. We have two opening topics, kind of advice from Stephie and I when it comes to content creating, and then for redraft leagues. So then we'll go into some positional topics, maybe two for each position, depending on how much time we have. But I figured for this Skrip 2 Ships series, talking about winning championships, talking about dynasty redraft, all these things, I like to mix it up just to kind of keep it fresh instead of just hitting one episode talking about sleepers and one episode talking about rankings. So we got a good mix today. As always, this podcast is part of the Fantasy Points Media Group, fantasypoints.com. Again, my one-stop shop for everything fantasy related. They have articles, rankings, all the advanced stats are all on there. You have podcasts, some of the best in the business on there. So definitely check that out, fantasypoints.com/subscribe. You can get a discount using promo code 21WIN10. And as always, appreciate anybody in the comments. It looks like we got a decent amount of people listening live. For tuning in, we're going to hit some positional topics after a little bit of advice. So be sure to stay tuned here past the video.
Play to win, no fear to give. I feel, but I can't forgive. I go all in this time, yeah, I won't regret. I'll pick the best on trip, they don't understand. I play to win, yeah, I play to win, I play to win. Yeah, I play to win, I play to win. Oh, play to win, I play to win. Yeah, play to win, I play to win.
All right, so Stephie, it's been a really big year for you. Looking at where you were, I think your pinned tweet says something around or along the lines of being at like 200 followers in October, and then growing and just expanding and doing more and more in the community. Myself, I started back in March and I was just doing articles, and then it evolved into a lot of other things. So maybe we can go back and forth, maybe just two advice between each other for content creating, because a lot of people want to make content. A lot of people want to grow in the fantasy community. So what's one thing that comes to mind for you is something that you could give as advice to somebody who wants to grow when it comes to content creating?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. You just made me think of one. I get this question a lot, and now I'm remembering an answer that I used to give, and I feel very strongly about this. You should be creating, like, try out different content, do whatever, but you should be creating content that you really like to do. Like, I wasn't loving doing articles, so I prefer to do video stuff. I prefer to do live shows, and find what your like niches and what you like, because you never want to be like, oh, I really don't want to write that article, or and you don't want it to be a drag. This should be fun regardless. And then I think another thing is engaging with your followers. That's something that I think gets missed a lot. It means a lot. These people follow you, they follow your content. So engaging with them is huge. And then also just being yourself. And it sounds so cliche, but I think that's one of the biggest things that gets missed in this industry, because, you know, we can all write the same article on our top 5 wide receivers, but how do you stand out? How does your personality come through your work? How are you more relatable to other people? And I think, you know, sharing little pieces of your life on Twitter too. You don't need to like tell your every secret, but the most of my followers probably know my dog's name. They know that I like drinking White Claws. They call me a silly goose. Like, there's little things, you know, that have made me, I think, be able to connect with my followers a little bit more.
I totally agree to all points. Quick side note, got a bunch of awesome people in the chat here. Got Bob, got our guy Swagman, Triple Play, John McLean, awesome guys in the chat. I like the point about interacting more with your followers and people that comment on your posts. I actually saw you a while ago talking about this, and I've actually tried to be better myself at it. When posting anything, regardless of if it's like positive, negative, critical comments, I try now, instead of just hitting the like button on things or passing them by, just to have a simple interaction, simple back and forth with people. And I think, like you said, people start to get to know you a little bit better and feel a little bit more respected, especially if they consume your content. One thing that sticks out to me personally is trying to collaborate. I mean, you don't have to on everything you do collaborate, but I remember early on having like barely any followers, and I was just knocking on people's door and just saying like, hey, can you spare a paragraph for my article? And I was asking like people that had 5, 6, 7,000 follows at the time when I was at 500 or something like that. And I feel like the more you do that, like you said, it kind of relates to what you said. People get to know you a little bit better, whether it's an article or a podcast or things like that. So I'm all about the collaboration, and there's going to be times where you do things completely on your own. I know you do shows sometimes or clips that it's just you speaking, and then you have other podcasts where it's you with multiple people, and I'm trying to do the same sort of thing. So for me, collaboration, I think, is big in this community.
It's awesome. And I think that's, I was joking around. I was on Casey Keenum's pod last night, and I said to her, I think a lot of things I did, because this wasn't really my intention when I first started. So I think I did a lot of things. I didn't do everything right, and I did a lot of things wrong that I try to tell people not to do. But I did some things like subconsciously very right. Like I was saying yes to every single show, every opportunity that I got. I was going on every single show, and I made all these connections with so many people. And even that, like, if you like doing camera stuff, it's getting the reps in. But like the networking is so valuable because so many times, even in my short amount of time, these last couple of months, like it always comes back. Like you and I, you're one of the people that I remember interacting with first in the fantasy industry. I remember looking up to you. You were very nice. That's not something you always get. Like someone that you can interact with right off the bat, even though I only had 400 followers, is huge. And then you invited me on your show at one point. Then you were on my show. Now we have a show together. So it's like, you never know who is going to be like your next co-host either.
Absolutely. And I've been a first timer on some people's shows, and I've also had some people that were, it was their first time being on a live show, and now they do that nonstop. I mean, just the little interactions can go a long way. And there's people that I'm in some groups now that are still, bigger than me with the follows, but we respect each other so much, and we help each other out with some sharing just because we've collaborated, we've linked up, we've talked to each other about, content and things like that. So it's definitely a community where I think that the more you focus less on, hey, I have to be bigger than this and this and that, and hey, how do I interact with these different people and learn and engage and put in the reps. I think that's big. The other thing that comes to mind for me is trying to be a little bit diverse and try different things. You know, back when I first started, I'm just talking about me personally, I was only doing some articles and I didn't do anything streaming. And then I just tried it and I wasn't super good. And then I tried it more and tried it more. And now I'm like posting random TikToks and infographics. And I think finding like different ways to express yourself and then building on what ends up being pretty good is good in the community, because I think some people are kind of hesitant about, hey, I have this idea, but I just don't know how to express it, and I don't want to do it in the wrong way. So that's something that comes to mind.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I think being different in this community, and that this is no knock to the people that, of course, like they put out great articles, and it's no knock to that, but it's very easy to put out, when we're all talking about Gibson today, and then we all write a Gibson article. But I think finding different ways to present information, especially one that's engaging and makes people want to come back, is huge. And yes, don't be afraid to say no. It's a huge thing. I struggled with that for a very long time. I am now, I don't know how many months it's been, and now I am finally learning to say no.
Yeah, and I want to read these comments just for the people that listen. But Bob from I-80, don't be afraid of the no. And that could be two things. It can be you kind of not overworking yourself and saying no sometimes, but it also can be being worried about asking other people to interact with your streaming and getting a no. If somebody doesn't respond, they don't respond. If they're busy, they're busy. But if not, there's plenty of times I've been shocked that somebody came on the podcast, Yeah. And another good piece of advice from John McGlynn: you have to enjoy and believe in yourself, even if you're against the grain of the people. I think people see a large amount of content creators, and sometimes they kind of shy away from just jumping in there. It is competitive and it is a big world, but at the same time, there's always room for more. There's always room for more.
One quick thing, and then I won't bore everyone to death, but Matthew Berry, one of the best pieces of advice that he gave me when he came on our Friday show, or gave everyone when he was on, is like, you can be the best. Like, I can be the best Stephie Smalls. No one else can replicate that. But if I try to be something other than Stephie Smalls, I'm going to lose the people that like Stephie Smalls. So you'll work harder trying to impress the people that don't like you, and you'll lose the people that do like you, because they like you because you're the best version of yourself.
I love that. And on the flip side is seeing different people. I think at times you can kind of tell when somebody, that you may have been interacting with or been following for a while is kind of shying away from things that make them. And I think we're a fan of each other in the community in different ways, and we're very, very different. So there's really no need to act a certain way so that X amount of people from this category or group start to like you. So definitely, if people like you, perfect. If not, that's fine too. It's just going to happen. That's life. But yeah, good points all around. Let's shift to some more advice, but let's talk about redraft, because the closer we get to the season, I mean, people have been doing startups since the end of the season. I mean, people are doing startups like on a weekly basis, it seemed like, just from looking at Twitter. But let's talk about redraft, because redraft season for your home leagues with your buddies, things like that, that's going to be coming up pretty soon. So I know from playing in straight redraft leagues that almost every season I'm taking away something from redraft in itself, because it's very different than dynasty. It's very different than keeper leagues or best ball. So just straight redraft, Stephie, what's something that comes to mind that maybe you have personally learned from playing redraft that you carry forward now?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what the best piece I could think of. Well, one thing is it's a totally different animal, and I understand that there is some overlap, and I get that, but we don't consider things like next year. You don't consider things like age. Like, go ahead and take Kelsey and don't think twice about it, because I like to go with proven guys when it comes to redraft. I'd rather know the points I'm going to get, and then maybe I'm taking a couple guys that, get your guys too. Redraft is fun that way, where I feel like I go and get all the guys that I believe in. I think that in redraft, I'm more likely to take a quarterback a little bit higher than I normally do in dynasty, but I'm also I go against the grain in everything that I do. But I think taking a tight end is like, here I am like preaching to my brand. But if you want to sleep at night, not worry about tight ends, because there's so many questions around that position right now. Just go and get one of those top 3 guys. don't make yourself crazy about it. You might end up like me, who had a team of Galladay, Saquon, Kittle, and Dak, and then you lose because you can't recover from that. But it's unlikely that happens. So I think you take one of those three, then you don't have to worry about it. And the wide receiver, there's a lot of depth at that position. So I'd rather get my running backs and make sure I have one of those guys that I feel really, really good about.
And I like the way that you went into different kind of routes with that. You went into some mentality things, some drafting things, and then some positional learning factors. And I think that just says to you that, hey, every year in redraft, if you're playing a lot, you probably should be picking things up and then utilizing that moving forward. So definitely all good points. One thing I want to stress this past season, on a weekly basis, I would release a waiver wire article. It was waiver wire winners every week. Guys on ESPN I use that were rostered under 50%, and I push that out. I have a little picture here of what your team could have looked like in the fantasy playoffs if you use some of the guys that I personally had on the waiver wire throughout the year. So these were some guys that were on the waiver wire at some point on the articles I personally wrote. Justin Herbert, Myles Gaskin, J.K. Dobbins, Justin Jefferson, Chase Claypool, Corey Davis, Robert Tonyan, T. Higgins. And then I have a couple subs on the bench here. I didn't mention, I don't think Logan Thomas was one. Mike Davis was one. J.D. McKissick was one. So there's literally a massive list of guys that would have been great in the fantasy playoffs during this past season, maybe not next year. But if you played the waiver wire on a weekly basis, you could have been very successful with just guys you picked up on the waiver wire. So that's one of the biggest things for me is if you're not playing the waiver wire in redraft, because it's not a deep roster for redraft. Typically it's a smaller roster. If you're not playing the waiver wire, you're not playing redraft the right way.
No, the waiver wire, that is your best friend. That's a fantastic point. I was able to recover in a bunch of leagues with players like Gallman and Tonyan. If you're paying attention and, you're watching football, just go get the player. Even if it's not if the second you see that shining light there, like Gallman, and even another player is Daniel Jones. Like he was on and off waivers. I would pick him up a week that I knew that he was going to have a great upside. So I think I dropped him, picked him up like 4 times probably, like at some point.
Absolutely. And I forgot, I always like randomly throw out this stat, and I don't have it in front of me ever, but Gallman was like RB6 for like a 4-week span or something like that. And that's crazy. It's insane. So definitely a good piece of advice from both Stephie and I. Got tons of people in the comments. Adam popping in, Kevin, Kevin, the other Kevin Murray. All right. So let's shift over now. So the big chunk of this podcast, we're going to talk about some positional topics. So I have running backs, I have quarterbacks, tight ends, wide receivers, different questions, just random things to think about. And again, could impact your dynasty leagues. It could impact your redraft leagues coming up. So to start, I'm sure you've heard of this guy before. I'll set you up for this. I think he's on the back wall somewhere. I keep thinking about rotating. But 2018. So number 2 overall pick. This player was the number 2 overall pick in his draft. There's only been 28 running backs selected top 5 since 1980. Some of those running backs include LaDainian Tomlinson, Marshall Faulk, Eric Dickerson, Barry Sanders, Edgerrin James, Ricky Williams, Zeke, Reggie Bush. Good names. So guys that go top 5 typically pan out pretty good. This guy has the build of a linebacker, and he's fast as hell. He's a freak athlete. But on the flip side, ACL tear, MCL, 2020, ankle issues 2019, 2016, 2015, thigh sprain and pool in 2019. Some injuries. So I see a lot of people concerned about your guy Saquon Barkley because of past injuries. I saw a crazy tweet that, and I'm not going to ever say names, right? Crazy tweet that was like, give me attention. This guy's way better than Barkley. I saw one of those tweets. I saw tweets. I actually put a post. I think you commented on it. What did you trade to get Saquon or sell Saquon? And some of the trades were crazy, weren't they?
Holy crap. I forget. There was one that blew my mind. Someone traded, was it Saquon for Ridley straight up?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was one of them. And then it was like Saquon for like multiple like seconds and a wide receiver, something crazy like that. So Stephie, two-part question here, and we'll just go back and forth. I'm sure you thought about this guy before. Saquon Barkley, is there an injury tag on him for one? And then for two, where do you got this guy in Dynasty? What's your outlook here?
So let's talk about his injuries. I won't be crazy about it because I already yell at everyone on Twitter, but he missed let's just be clear. He did not miss any games his rookie year. He missed 3 games, came back in record timing from his high ankle sprain. And then, yes, he suffered this ACL injury. Got it. Cool. I think everyone for some reason thinks that we live in like 400 BC or something. Medical advancements are so like, it's so advanced now. It's so much different than back in the day. And even back in the day, these players had the ability to come back. So I am no shape or form am worried about Saquon coming back. He's not injury prone. You know what he is? He's on a team that uses and abuses him. Even Freeman got hurt because when you are relying on literally one player to do everything, do you know what happens? That player is getting tackled the most. They're putting themselves at the risk to get injured more. And Saquon, so they did a prehab beforehand. His MCL healed completely. They didn't touch it in surgery. He didn't have a meniscectomy, which is where you see all these problems with arthritis and reoccurring injury later on. And I mean, so far he's making record timing. So he's in a really good spot. There's also a lot of metrics that put players they've seen in a better position to do well. It's like athleticism, a good coach, like a solid backup. I forgot. There's like 2 more things. I wrote an article on it. I'll have to find it, but he's in a really good place. I think that they set the Giants up to be able to take all of the heat off of Saquon, but then still let him go off kind of thing.
I definitely agree with that because I think in the past you knew that he was going to be overutilized in both the running game and the passing game. And now with other guys in the system that can expand the field and have guys running across the field, that helps him. And he doesn't have to have 25 touches a game, but he's a guy when healthy that still probably will. Weeks 1 through 17, RB10 in 2019. He only played 13 games. RB1 in 2018. So his rookie season, he came into the league and said, fantasy. I mean, he didn't, obviously you don't care about the fantasy aspect. He said, I'm fantasy RB1 for rookie season. 2,000-yard rushing seasons. He caught 91 balls rookie year. So this guy can literally do everything. He's a freak athlete. I think putting tags on guys this early in their career when we've seen them pop off is just wrong. It's just wrong.
I think that people are forgetting a lot, and this is where it's so funny when people argue with me on Twitter. I'm like, have you looked at his stats from like his first 2 years? Like you've looked at them, right? Like, we forgot that he won Offensive Rookie of the Year. We forgot that he was able to have 2,028 total yards on a team that only went 5 and whatever. Like he is a different species of an athlete. And it also tells me that you know nothing about Adrian Peterson, who, when he came back in 2012, he had career highs. He broke numerous records. It was literally such a good year for him because it doesn't have to be limiting. If you can do the work in rehab, there's no reason you can't come back. And actually, AP went on the following year to continue to keep up with those numbers, and he could have almost passed himself at that rate. And he is someone that ended up needing meniscus surgery later on. And I think that Saquon ultimately, at the end of the day, I think he had a better, outcome from surgery. But we have to see. This is all only what you read, and
sure. I was just about to comment this too, but we got Outlaw Cowboy. Look at how Dalvin Cook started out. He had a lot of injuries too. I'm pretty sure he tore his ACL as well. The timing is important too, though. Obviously, you don't want a guy to tear his ACL ever or get hurt. But he did it at the very beginning of the season. So he had plenty of time to start getting on the right track and getting back after it. I just have nothing but faith for the guy, to be honest. I looked it up. Fantasy points for Dynasty has Saquon RB5. Fantasy Pros has Saquon for Dynasty RB2. Do you have an idea of where you have him? I don't know if it's going to be specifically this number. Where do you have him?
I'm finalizing my rankings. They're going to be up soon on FTN. And I struggled a lot with the running backs this year, way more than I thought I would. And I think I've come to the conclusion that he will be RB4 for me.
Is this for, will this be for next year or for Dynasty?
I mean, I think he might be for both. I think he might be RB3
RB4?
for redraft.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't looked over my redraft then, but he's still up there. Like, there's no reason that Saquon, like, if he had a career high year, broke all the running back records, like, nothing about that is shocking. It's just everyone's so scared of injury. There's no reason to be nervous. Is he probably gonna have decreased targets in the beginning? Yeah, he's coming off an ACL injury. Guys, like, you gotta ease him in a little bit, but a couple targets from Saquon Barkley, that's not giving the ball to like a random running back. I mean, he's still going to produce. So I think that there's no reason to fade him. And even if week 1, week 2, you're not getting Saquon numbers, I think you will be very pleased with him later on.
I completely agree, and I am probably very close because redraft, I'm going to post mine probably this week for redraft at some point. But I think I'm going to have him somewhere either 4 or 5, just with the only asterisk being maybe he gets eased in. And if he's getting eased in and he's still RB4 or 5, that's how much I think about Saquon Barkley. For Dynasty, I'm juggling between 2 and 3 for Dynasty, because I still think from a talent perspective, and I think this team's getting better and he's getting more support, I still think he's a top 3 talented running back in the league. So
I mean, he only played 13 games and had like 1,400 yards. That's when so imagine if he was on the field, and we're talking about even that year, an even worse offense that went 4-12. So he doesn't need a good offense either, but I think the Giants have prepared to be more productive.
Completely agree there. Let's stay on the running back topic for random positional topics here. We kind of talked about this last week with Scott. The statement that, will James Robinson and Travis Etienne be the next Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt? So I'm not asking that again. I'm asking 2 different guys now, because I saw a tweet about it and I thought it was interesting to see the diverse comments on it. So I'm curious to hear what you think about it. But 2 guys in a new system together, could they be the next Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt? 2 guys that both perform well for fantasy and both have high upside. And it's going to be these 2 guys right here. Not my graphics, so credit to who made this one. But Drake and Josh here. So I got Kenyon Drake, Josh Jacobs. Real quick here, this past season, just looking at the splits for Josh Jacobs and what the volume was like, he had 273 carries. Devontae Booker and Jalen Richard had 115 carries. I looked at the projections for volume for Kenyon Drake, and they projected him to have 113. So almost identical to the 2 backs behind Josh Jacobs for this coming year. 43 running backs in 2020 had more rushing attempts than 113 if that's the case. So 43 running backs would have had more if Kenyon Drake came to the Raiders and had that volume. Drake in the past, the efficiency for, as a pass catcher, 5.5 yards per target on 226 targets. So we see these rumors and coach speak about him being a receiving back in the system. It's kind of iffy on the efficiency though. And then on the flip side, if we're comparing Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, the O-lines are extremely, extremely different. So Stephie, statements made. These are the next 2, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. What do you think of that?
I think that's absurd, is what I think that is. I think that I did not understand this move. I still don't understand this move. You draft Jacobs, and now you bring in a guy who's like, they're not really that much different as far as their numbers, their style, everything
Perfect
about
point.
them. They're very, very similar. Drake is probably slightly better on breakaway. Maybe the numbers look that way, but to me, I don't know that I really I notice that significantly. But I think, again, his being a receiving back, that history of that, whatever it is, I think that's why they brought him on. Is I think Gruden thinks that he's going to maybe be able to recover that and contribute to their pass centric thing going on there. But again, I don't feel great about that team in general. The guys that were behind Jacobs this year, they all got half the amount of touches. So I don't know how that gets distributed across this team. It doesn't really make a ton of sense. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, they're just similar players. So you're not adding true depth there by any means. It's like replicating the same player that's like 4% better.
I love that point, because that's one I was going to get to, is if you look at Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, since they are the mold example we want to get to, right? If you look at them as players, they have one thing in common. They're both very good running backs. But on the same note, they're two very, very different running backs that can complement each other in so many different ways. And when I think, like you are saying to a T, I'm in such an agreement with you. When you think of Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake and their styles of play, what they can offer, are they like super diverse that they can supplement each other? I don't think so. And then on the same note, what makes the Browns' two running backs capable of being so good in fantasy is that they're an extremely run-heavy team that has a good defense, and they use both guys a lot. Are the Raiders going to be able to just pound the rock when they're chasing some games this year? I don't think so. I think they're going to have to pass the ball a lot, and the schemes of the offense are not the same. So I see this often with, who's going to be the next duo running backs, and it's tough because I think the O-line has to come into play. I think the two running backs have to complement each other on two different notes. And I think the schemes of the offense have to be in line for two running backs to be successful.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, what it is honestly, Drake is just 4 years older with 350 more career touches, but they're essentially the same player. They're going to run the same, like it's going to be this. I don't know what the plan was there, but this is classic Gruden, classic Raiders. I don't know what the idea was, but I think that, and I'm seeing Adam in the comments right now saying all this to say Darren Waller is the tight end one. Like, he's right.
Like, enough said.
He's not even the tight end. He's the tight end one. He's the wide receiver one. He's the running back one. Like, that's the guy you want over there. And I think we only see Waller get better from here on out. And then you're adding another running back that you already have. It's like, I just don't know about that. Yeah, 100% Adam, 200 targets. I believe it.
That's good. And I think Waller's going to be in line to be one of the offensive coordinators in the next few years as well. So he just continues to expand in that. But awesome comments in there. Two running back topics. Let's get away from the running back position. And again, if you are tuning in now, appreciate everybody in the comments. We're just chopping it up over different topics for different positions, just positional topics, keeping things fresh. Some thinking points here. So we're going to go to the wide receiver position. I got two graphics for this. This was an interesting one, and one that I personally was kind of juggling around a little bit, because I actually posted a poll on it regarding these four guys on the screen: Gabriel Davis on the Buffalo Bills, Denzel Mims on the Jets, Laviska Shenault on the Jaguars, Jalen Reagor on the Eagles. And I posted this poll, and I said, who was most likely to have a year two breakout? And I actually ended up getting close to 400 something votes. I just screenshotted it earlier. Shenault, 49% with the votes. Second was Mims, 20.6, then Reagor with 18.6, and then Davis with 11.8. And it was interesting because the comments were diverse. So you always get these polls and it's just straightforward, 20% here, 30% here. But the comments, people were saying, Davis is disrespected, Reagor's in line. Shenault is going to have a massive year. Mims is so different than these guys. So I love the fact that there was so many different comments, which again, fantasy is boring if we all think the same shit all the time. So I love when people have different views on this. But my question to you, Stephie, I gave you that list. I changed
my answer. I voted for someone and I changed my answer.
Oh man. All right. Let me read. I'm going to get off my rant. I'm going to read out to you just what happened this past year. You tell me who's going to break out next year in your opinion. So Shenault, wide receiver 46 in 14 games. Reagor, wide receiver 89 in 11 games. Mims, wide receiver 106 in 9 games. Davis, wide receiver 56 in 16 games. Here's some other factors before we go and pick our guy. Chenault's got Chark and Marvin Jones, who people forget about. Reagor has Devonta Smith, Goddard, and a bunch of other guys. Mims has Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, Crowder. And then Gabriel Davis has Stephon Diggs, Beasley, and whoever else is running around there. So Steffi, sorry.
I like
there. That's I broke the real name there. No. Who's your pick? Who's your pick?
Okay, so my original selection was Chenault. I retracted that because for a while, this is why I do it like self-doubt, but I saw James Coe and Matt Harmon put out a video today on Mims, and it definitely reassured me of all the things I had felt about him. So I still am on Team Mims. I was picking him up everywhere last year towards the end of the season. Here's the thing. He was on a really crappy offense that was making him run routes that he's not good at. They were not trying to highlight his actual talents. So, I think that he's someone, looking at what Wilson was doing in his career in college, I think that they kind of pair nicely together, and we might see them I think that he could very well be a little bit of one of those alpha receivers over there. They have a lot of, they do have a lot of talent, a lot of mouths to feed, as the fantasy community likes to say. But, this guy's fantastic at contested catches. He's like 72.2% on reception perception. So there's no reason that this guy can't break out. But I think it's like that with all these guys. Like, I can see the argument, I think, for all of them. Rager, I feel less strongly about, but the rest of them, it wouldn't surprise me by any means. And that's why I struggled. I voted LaVisca, but I think, because someone wrote, didn't he already have a breakout? And I was like, then I don't know, not really. Can you kind of have a breakout? No, that means he didn't break out. But I think that, again, there's a lot changing on a lot of these teams. So do we really know how the schemes are going to work? We're talking about new coaching staffs, a new quarterback, all new weapons, older O-lines, younger O-lines. So there's a lot of pieces on these teams. They're not as set in stone, but I'm going to stick with my Mims. He's been like one of my sleepers for a little bit.
I like that. I juggle the two personally. So if I had to take two out of this equation, I'm not sold on Rieger because I wasn't sold as a prospect to a big T. And then I think, the way this offense might run, he's going to need like one or two big plays a game to be super fantasy relevant and get you like 20 points or something like that. I think Davis, I think Cole Beasley's still involved this year. I think Stephon Diggs is heavily involved. So if he's juggling that wide receiver 3 with somebody else potentially, I don't know. I think he's very talented, but I don't know if he's going to be this massive breakout if he's still wide receiver 3 in his team. So I think it comes down to who could be the alpha or the second person on their team potentially. And I think Mims and Chenault have these good chances. You talked about Mims a little bit. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of the 8 games he was involved. He had 40 plus receiving yards. So even if the volume wasn't there, he would have like four catches for 42 yards, 4 catches for 62 yards. So he's a big dude. He can go up and grab the ball. I think at the end of the day, it could be Corey Davis as the alpha, him as a 2. It could be Elijah Moore as the alpha, him as a 2, or maybe Mims ends up being the alpha. I think that there's such a chance with a new rookie quarterback that it's up for grabs.
Right.
I do like Chenault, and the reason being, the post-catch ability was good. He had 5 weeks, 14-plus points. The last game of the season, he went 6 for 68 and 2 touchdowns. And Urban Meyer loves to use wide receivers with his sort of skill sets in creative ways. That's why he was looking at your guy, Kadarius Toney. I mean, Kadarius Toney was high on Urban Meyer's list. So I think LaVisca Chenault can be a classic Urban Meyer guy. So for me, it's between those two. But man, I saw some good comments for all 4 of these guys.
Yeah, for sure. I'm like I was very in on LaVisca, and I have him everywhere. So I'm going to be wrong if I start dying myself. I'm not buying into Urban Meyer a little bit. Like, I don't know how I feel about this.
You've been saying this.
I'm starting to back away from it, and I was really excited, but I'm a little nervous about how he's going to put this team together. And I think it all sounds very fun, but I'm nervous that LaVisca might get the short stick because of Urban.
Interesting. And it's tough because if something seems obvious with a new coach and a new system, a lot of times it's not. Want to shout out to some of my home league guys. My buddy Tane, Mims is the guy, and then on the flip side, Thor is saying my dude to Chenault. I know these things. But yeah, 4 guys that can break out, definitely. And it's funny because when you say breakout, how you define it and how I define that are probably 2 different things. I think it's pretty subjective, I guess. But
right. And can you really break out if there's already a star there? Like, not really. Like, because you'll never really break out to the fullest. Like,
but like, what does that mean? You know, like, what's is a breakout like top 10, 15?
Yeah,
is it like better
like,
than last year?
As in, like, we're gonna draft him next year and redraft? Is that did Justin Jefferson break out last year? Is that what that means? Like, I don't understand that. Like, can Davis really break out if Stephon? Like, how do you break out with someone like Stephon Diggs on your team? That I don't understand. So is it just like showing that you have value, maybe?
That's kind of how I take it. Like, I can use this guy on a weekly basis, but then somebody will argue with me and say, well, if he's not your starting wide receiver, then I don't know about that. So
yeah, I don't know. It's all, we all make up these things. Like, handcuff means something different to me than the next person. So
yeah, that's what we kind of touched on last week a little bit. All right, so let's go to another guy that people have been wanting to break out. I think maybe some people think he did. I don't know. It's this guy on the screen, Christian Kirk. So I see a lot of different takes on this guy all the time. So let me read off a few things. 2020 wide receiver 51 in 14 games. 2019 he was wide receiver 38 in 13. So he was better in less games last year. Kyler Murray, he's really good at football. Does that mean Christian Kirk to you, Stephie? Do you have faith in this guy in the coming season? I mean, I guess we open up with redraft. We can BS about dynasty all we want because it's long term, but do you got faith next year in Christian Kirk?
No. And I don't think you should either.
I don't want to argue about this one.
I feel like pretty strongly about this too. I just think that, first of all, do you think that they drafted Rondale Moore because they're confident that Christian Kirk is gonna come and break out? Like, I'm pretty sure Christian Kirk hasn't broken out, and I don't think he has breakout potential. I think we realize that that's done. And Hopkins is gonna eat the targets, and Christian Kirk has been super underwhelming. Totally stopped drafting him. And I think that Rondale Moore, like, I would love to see Rondale Moore. I think that was a great draft pick by them. I was actually impressed that they did that because it's not something I was expecting. They still got guys, old man Larry back, so there's people there still, but I never, ever expected them to take a wide receiver. I was so happy that they did, though, because I think Rondale Moore adds something to that roster and is another weapon for Kyler to get that ball down the field.
I definitely agree there. Christian Kirk, for me, I hate guys that are like super, super inconsistent. In this past season, 3 games in the 20s, good, thumbs up. Then he also had 8 games under 10 fantasy points. So, I mean, if we're looking at, a guy that you're plugging in, that's iffy. Here's another interesting stat. So 2019, he was averaging 8-ish targets, right? When Hopkins came to the team, he started averaging like 5-ish. So he took a dip in his target share with Hopkins, obviously. But now you add AJ Green, who might maybe he's gonna have.
Oh yeah, maybe Kirk's done. I
don't think AJ Green's gonna be dead. I don't know if he's gonna be your weekly starter, but if he's suiting up and he's healthy, he's gonna play. And then you also have Rondale Moore, which you had a great point, Stephie. He offers a lot of things that this offense really didn't have. So I'm out.
Out. It's a no for me, dog.
Yep. And Andy Isabella's season, man, he's out there somewhere too. I don't know. I might be suiting up next week as well. We don't know. We do know. So we're both out in Christian Kirk, it seems like. Let's go to the tight end position. Stephie, you talk about tight ends often. You are a big tight end hoarder, which is nice to know for the draft that we'll be in together. So I have to pay attention to that there. You said, I asked you earlier, I said, hey, is this, I forgot who it was. Is this your sleeper tight end? You said, everybody knows my sleeper tight end. So for those that are tuning in, Stephie, my big question is, who is your sleeper tight end?
Okay. So I have a sleeper tight end, and then I have a tight end that is going, you can't consider him a sleeper. Like, he's like, I made this joke last night because I had a couple claws. It was like deceaster, because he literally doesn't exist. But he's going to be relevant. So I'll start with my sleeper is Jonnu. Everyone is too low on him. I think that, he goes over to a Patriot system. They're going to 12 personnel all day. I don't care about Aguilar. They're not throwing the ball to anyone. It's not going to be as productive as, Henry and Jonnu are two of the best receiving tight ends that are in this league. And Bill Belichick loves tight ends. People are crazy if they think that these guys are not going to get targets. And I think Jonnu being the stronger talent there, I don't know that Henry ever looked exactly the same when he came back from his injury. I've never been a huge fan of Henry, though. So I think that Jonnu could easily take up so many of the targets on this team and definitely be fantastic.
Just a quick comment there. I know there's rumblings about, Julio, but I think every team in the entire country is talking about Julio and the potential for him to go there. But if this team does not add a alpha wide receiver, I don't care who's playing quarterback. I think the Patriots way is going to be methodically get the ball up the field. And I think that means Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith are going to be those guys. You might have Aguilar making a play here, whoever else making a play there. But I think it's going to be a heavy usage on the tight ends. And this is nothing. I forgot this table shakes, so my screen's like shaking.
They could both be relevant, though. Like, it's
they can.
I just am higher on Jonnu as an athlete himself. But I think that Henry could very easily, like nearly have the same like kind of points. It's not out of the question if they're running a 12 personnel scheme like that and they're just going heavy tight end, which is something that historically the Patriots have done. Like, this is a thing that Bill likes. So I think that either of those guys, like, I feel more comfortable with guys like that than I do with someone like Robert Tonyan, who, there's a lot of questions over there with what's even going on with the quarterback. Guys like Logan Thomas, who I think, I saw crazy projections the other day that he was going to get like 115 targets. He's not getting that many targets. There's so many other guys on the team, and Fitz is going to be just like throwing the ball to all these like toys he has. And I just don't think Logan Thomas is going to be a part of that.
It's interesting too with Jonnu and Hunter Henry. I actually like Hunter Henry a lot. But those two guys offer two very, very different things from the tight end position. And we don't talk about that factor enough, not just for them two guys, but how tight ends can offer different things. I think there's upsides for yards after catch with Jonnu Smith. And I think there's massive upside with Hunter Henry in the red zone. So, I mean, two guys can both be relevant on the field at the same time. Will it be frustrating at times for fantasy? Sure.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, are you fading those guys? I don't know. I don't know about that. I wouldn't be.
Also, you said red zone, so I'll tell you my deceaster, not my sleeper, because he's not on you can literally pick him up on waivers in any dynasty league at any time during listen, Kyle Rudolph, hear me out. Listen to Rudolph, just listen to me though. Jason,
gonna trigger some people.
I know, and it's going to make me angry. And it sounds crazy. But just look at the facts, right? So you take Jason Garrett, who cannot get over Witten, tried to force Ingram into the Witten role. He could not do that. Rudolph is fantastic in the red zone. And I think that you're going to see a lot of touchdowns out of that guy. I really do think so. I just think that, you're finally giving Garrett his fix. And when they get in the red zone and they need to score, I think the ball's going to Rudolph.
It makes sense. It makes sense. Would you have concern if that's what you're banking on?
No, don't bank on it. I'm saying, like, let's see how it goes. But that's why he's a Easter. Like, he can't be a sleeper because, like, this is just something I'm, speculating over because I think it could very much be possible.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the qualities he's brought in the past, then them bringing him in, they obviously know this. And if they're in certain situations on the field, then he might be on the field for every play 20 yards out. That could be the case, and that delivers some upside there as well. I thought I saw you in the past talking about Adam Troutman.
He's my other, yeah.
So I was on the I-80 podcast on Tuesday. I was guested over there. We talked about different teams. Third rounder, 2020, right? Jared Cook is gone. He's 6'5", 255. That's pretty big. That's pretty big. He's a capable blocker, good hands. He was the best at the 3-cone drill in the combine. Just a random fact there, because some people think he's not as athletic as some others, but I think he kind of sneakily is athletic. But 2019, his senior season, or his last season at Dayton, 70 receptions for 916 yards and 14 touchdowns. The Saints, two guys, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, Number 3 is wide open, and I will not be convinced otherwise because Traquan Smith and Callaway, I'm not convinced on either one of those guys. So could Troutman be the third receiver on this team?
100%. I'm high on him, and I got so much hate on that. I don't know if you saw the post that was like, I mean, this was months ago now, and this is how people found out that I like Troutman, but like there's no reason that this guy cannot end up being like a key guy over there. You look what he did when he did get the chance to get the ball, which was not that much. But also there's, for everyone that loves the numbers, I think it's by the third year, if they don't break out tight ends, they never do basically. And he's still got a lot of time and he's shown a lot of potential. So I'd rather take someone like this again than some of these tight ends that in the past have already disappointed me. And, if you're not getting one of the top guys, why not take someone that has a little bit more upside?
Yeah, and I've said it before on this podcast. I'll say it again. I'm a massive volume guy for tight ends. So I love a guy that has the potential to get 6 targets, 7 targets on a weekly basis versus a guy that might score here and there, or maybe he's getting 8, maybe he's getting 3. So if he's the third option, I like that. John in the chat, Anthony Ferkser. I've said this stat before: 157 vacated targets for Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith. Doesn't mean that that's going to go right to this guy, but again, they added I think Dez Fitzpatrick right in the rookie draft. That's another guy who's completely free that might have some relevance if they don't add a pass catcher. So we'll talk on this one briefly, and then I'll just finish with one of these quarterback questions. But Buffalo cleared some cap space. People are, minds are going crazy. What are they going to do? That sounds like money for Zach Ertz. I joked around earlier and I said, no, it's money for Todd Gurley, which I would like as a DeAndre Swift, guy and truther. But if Ertz does indeed go to Buffalo, are you really interested in that for next season?
No, not really. I think that, it's funny. The thing with the Bills is last year in the league, they had the 4th least targets to a tight end. But granted, look at what they were working with. So it doesn't, no matter what, the Bills are going to be a top 5 offense with or without an upgrade at tight end. It just gives them another weapon. And sure, he'll be relevant, but I don't think he's going to be like the main character there. So, I would maybe, if he's falling, because people are a little worried about him, he's another one that you could kind of stash and then see how it goes. But again, Buffalo, last year really didn't give the ball to the tight ends. So I'm not loving that because, again, like you said, volume is everything.
Yeah, the guy's been 2019 through 2017. He's been 4, 2, and 3 for the tight end position. But again, not every system is identical, and the way that the Bills operate are not the way that the Eagles have operated before. I think I'd have interest, but I don't think I'd be super comfortable taking him as a top 5 or something like that tight end, hoping that he gets back to that status. So for me, it depends on in your draft where he's falling. And we don't know that because this sort of move has not happened. But again, for me, if he's falling, I'll take him. I'll take him because he's been good before if he's healthy. But on the same note, I'm not going to bank on him being a top 4 guy just because the Bills are good.
Player in redraft, but I'm not going out of my way to get Ertz at this point in dynasty.
That's not your draft strategy,
right? That's not it. When I'm talking about hoarding tight ends, I mean other tight ends,
like other guys not with the same name as this guy. Right. All right, last question. We'll finish on this note. I have to be a homer and talk about these things, but a lot of back and forth and a lot of takes about should Fields sit behind Andy Dalton for the Bears. I have a strong opinion on this, so maybe we'll disagree on this. But some people say it's the right move. Jay Cutler, who is in other news trying to get some money from his ex, is also a guy that says he should sit behind Dalton. Other guys are saying absolutely not. Hell no. Maybe it's somewhere in Dalton's contract that he has to start week 1 or something like that. I don't know that either. What's your opinion? Should Fields sit behind Dalton?
I don't think, no matter what we want, I think that Dalton is starting because I think that the Bears, I think it's going to happen kind of thing. And I feel so bad for Dalton because I don't know if anyone saw his presser when he took that job and he said, this was the team that told me I'd have a starting position. Man. And I think that just plays back in Nagy's head, and he like feels so bad. And I think that it's going to be like, oh, I think emotions are playing into this. And I'm so serious right now. Like, I'm not even kidding you. I think they genuinely feel bad that they took Dalton, told him he was going to be the starting quarterback, and then went and drafted a very promising young guy. So I think Justin Fields could handle it. I hope that they don't do something crazy like keep this guy on the bench for a couple weeks. Like, I'm talking like, 3 weeks maybe if you really need to do it. But I would love to see Justin Fields get out there. I think there's something to sitting on the bench. But in my opinion, Justin Fields was always the most NFL ready. So I don't feel like he necessarily needs that.
I think he's played at a high level. I mean, some of these other guys that come into the league, they do sit, and they haven't really performed at a high level. Maybe they were pretty good in college, but the conference was kind of iffy, or maybe they didn't have a long, history of production. But like you're saying, Stephie, I agree that he's NFL ready. I think that there's definitely aspects of his game that he needs to be better at, but I can't think of a guy that's coming into this league, even Trevor Lawrence, that probably needs to prep and change some things. So my thing is, unless I got something twisted, Allen Robinson's on his 1 year, right, with the Bears. You're not convincing that guy to come back.
Oh yeah, no. Like every week that he does not start, Allen Robinson is 1 foot out the door. Like, he will not finish the season there. Like, he will get out of there. So this is it does. And you're so right, is like, that's who you have to watch out for almost more. Forget Andy Dalton's feelings, man. You got to pay attention to Allen Robinson's feelings.
100%. And I have not voiced this like anywhere, but I've been thinking about this nonstop. I'm thinking, if I'm Allen Robinson, I want to get connected with this young guy, build a good connection with this young quarterback, and then be convinced that, hey, this guy's the man. This guy's the man. He's going to get better. I'm coming back. If it's 6 weeks of Andy Dalton, how are you convincing Allen Robinson, an elite wide receiver, to come back to the system? You're not. You're playing games with this guy. So again, I'm with you. How do you weigh it? Do I break that handshake I made with Andy Dalton in the elevator saying you're going to start, or do I make Allen Robinson happy to come back to this team and then continue to build Montgomery and Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet, and then they have a great defense that wants to win right now? So is this a world-beating team? Maybe not, but it's a team that has been to the playoffs the last few years, and I think you need some sort of change that fires people up, and starting Andy Dalton over Justin Fields is not that.
Yeah, and I think it's different, like throwing someone onto a team like Sam Darnold and the Jets and being like, okay, start week 1. Like, that's very different than what Chicago has right now. Like, this is a team that's, even when we are doing a quarterback tango, is still winning games. Like, it's a team that has the supporting cast that a young guy like Justin Fields could need. So and the more we talk about it, I think in this circumstance, it might just be better to just let him start, let him get the kinks out week 1, 2, and then run from there. That might be the better way to go with this guy, especially with Justin Fields. I think that is a better route because it's not like we're throwing him into a dumpster fire. Like, the Bears are very adequate team that can absolutely win. So why not just let Justin Fields get acquainted with his new teammates?
Absolutely. And like you're saying, it's not like the O-line is terrible. Did they make moves for it? They did. Do they have a decent running back? Yeah, they do. Do they have a good wide receiver? They do. Do they have a good defense? They do. So it's not like we're throwing a guy in to be set up to fail. We're not, No. But yeah, this I love this back and forth here. It's got me like fired up for the season now as a Bears fan. So I'm like,
now.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So Good stuff here as always. Again, for this podcast, if you're still listening live or you're listening on iTunes or things like that, Skrip 2 Ships, Stephie and I were talking about different topics that'll help you for various leagues, trying to get you to win some championships here. So, Stephie, can you again just remind everybody where to find you for 1, and then for 2, anything you want to plug that's coming up for you, because I know you are very, very busy.
So yeah, you guys can find me at Stephie Smalls with 3 L's. Small Talk came out yesterday. I haven't been good about promoting it because I've been so busy, but I'm going to drop a clip in the video shortly. And then I'm recording my first episode Off Topic. So looking forward to that. Everything I do is always, on FTN, on my Twitter. And this is a blast. It's a good venting session too every week. It's like therapeutic.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we're not really holding back on our thoughts at all on this. So I love that. Thank you guys for listening. As always, we go every Thursday here, Stephie and I, and you can catch me doing a bunch of random content throughout the week. I've been trying to hit like every day something every day. So be on the lookout for that. And as always, appreciate you guys tuning in.